Good morning, everybody. Anybody? If you're out there, let me just mess with my hair a little bit. Move these curls into soft, natural looking waves. Good morning, CC Pups. How are you? It's the middle of eclipse season. And boy, it feels like the world is really the obvious transformation, it feels like right now. So I'm going to give it a little minute for people to come into the room before I start talking about the transits. Again, we had an eclipse last Sunday, and we had a full moon lunar eclipse last Sunday in Pisces, and we will be having a new moon solar eclipse next Sunday in Virgo. This will be the second new moon in Virgo, this Virgo season. And I wanted to bring this up because the Pisces Virgo axis is known as an axis of suffering. And I think it's because the axis is focused on the other. Virgo being the sign of work and service to others, and then Pisces representing all that compassion and empathy and feeling, absorbed. It's the 12th house in Pisces is where there's a dissolving energy, and the dissolving is that of the physical ego, of the physical structure, of the physical fears and repressions. And as we've been walking through this Neptune-Saturn transit on the world axis, I mean, every single person, and myself included, is going through, literally feels like we're walking in cement sandals, okay? It's not like they're going to tank us and pull us under, but we absolutely are the feet are feeling heavy and uncomfortable. And what was once comfortable, that's why I said sandal. It also went very well with sand, but cement, I mean. I think this is important when we look at this and we have a certain awareness about it, because the suffering comes from that human structure. And if we think about what Saturn has to offer us in reward, okay, in our willingness to surrender to, yes, the human structure of my current life could potentially be shifting in ways that I was unaware of or wasn't planning on. But do I not have the power of spirit, Neptune, to work with me, to transcend what has been limiting? But without the awareness of that limitation, how do we move ourselves intentionally forward? And this is what I've been grappling with this last week, because my dad's birthday was on Tuesday. Wednesday, there was, what I would call Wednesday's events were, I think, tragic in many ways, but mostly for freedom of speech, mostly for freedom of belief, mostly for the principles of what this country was built upon. And I think that's part of what we're walking through, meaning breaking down the structures that have been limiting to the truth of our speech, the truth of our belief, and the truth of our sovereign right to build our dreams. And that's not just the United States mantra, that's the universe's mantra. So when we look at Pisces being the divine, okay, and the connection to spirit and that which you cannot see, and Virgo representing the literally the mercurial mind, the apparatus that takes in information, assimilates that information, and then spews that information out in rapid fire. And that information is built on human structure. So yes, it's a access of suffering, because everybody's walking around in the human structure saying, this is how it is. This is reality. This is practicality. So it's really crazy times. Now, I was thinking about this too. In eclipse season, it goes with the nodes, right? We always have our eclipse seasons on the nodal axis. And the nodes are the moon's nodes. And also represent our karmic habits and our karmic the things we're stretching for, our experiences we want to the experience we want to have. So if the moon rules our karmic signature and where we're going, then the moon is the most important planet. And I've said this a million times, if I've said it once, in your chart. Now, this is why this is so important, because as I've been looking at things, when the last eclipse happened, it was at 15 degrees of Pisces, and it was making an exact sextile to my midheaven and an exact trine to my IC. And normally I would say, oh, it doesn't affect me. I don't see any planets going on there. And then that led me to looking at my house structure. And while my second house starts in Taurus, it starts at 29 degrees of Taurus. So my second house is actually super Geminian. And I think these are subtleties because Gemini is ruled by Mercury. Mercury was conjunct the last eclipse near the sun in its well, supposedly ruling house. I'm believing more and more that Chiron rules Virgo, but that's okay, traditionally speaking. So what we're looking at here during this particular time in the transits is being aware of our divinity, our emotional body, that which you can't see with your eyes, but you maybe hope for with your heart. And if you're really brave, you intend, okay, with your courage, and that which other people will tell you what is practical. Because when we want to feel supported, we engage others in conversation. Mercury. Good morning. Good morning, Cece Pups. Good morning, Katerina. Good morning, Ava. Good morning, MK. It's great to see you all here. I'm hoping that Small Wildflowers is going to come in today. I haven't actually heard from her, but we're going to keep good thoughts. So I want to offer this too, because as I was thinking about the transits this week and the eclipses, because the eclipse coming up next week, we're like in the in-between space, right? That the Sunday in between. And I was thinking about the idea that, okay, let me go back to the idea of the house structure before I start this up again. Because my second house is the house walking into the house of my value, of my voice, of my speech. Okay. And you guys see me. I'm such a stickler for words and vibration of words. And so that makes perfect sense. I want you to start to look at your house structure and look at the degrees of the house and what that degree is, because I think there's even bigger clues into your soul's path when you do that, because the 29th degree is an anaretic degree. 29 reduces down to an 11, which is the master number of thought. So my second and eighth house access is primed for huge transformation to go into a new vibration. That's important. And the upcoming eclipse is at 29 degrees of Virgo. So this is at the anaretic degree of what will I think? What do I really believe is practical? The last 4 months, I have not experienced this much emotional challenge in decades, honestly. I mean, even when my father died, I did not have, it didn't throw me off the way I've been kind of vibrationally thrown off. And I know that I could push and I could offer discounts and I could do all these things. But until I align to my moon, to my nodes and how they want to be activated and utilized, then I'm not going to get anywhere, because the mind does not really rule your manifestations. It is the emotional body, which is why our karmic nodes are so important. Okay. Now, the other thing I wanted to say is that the Shapley cluster, hey, she's here. Yay. Good morning. We've all been waiting breathlessly. Well, not me. I've been talking endlessly, but I'm so excited to see you here, Small Wildflowers. I'm sure we'll get cooking with gas now that your vibration is in the room. So this is the other thing I wanted to say, because the nodes, the blah, 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 the upcoming eclipse is going to be conjunct. Maybe you weren't supposed to be working on Sunday, which is why you can't sign in, even though you're there. But anyway, the upcoming eclipse at 29 degrees of Virgo is conjunct the supergalactic center, which is in the Shapley cluster, right? These 4 points within our universe that really align us to our own manifestation and our awareness of it. The supergalactic center at 2 degrees of Libra, 22 minutes, is actually this point that really illuminates us as source energy. And the source is our intention and our ability to focus on that, even if there is a wobble. Okay. It's like spirit knows you're encased in a human apparatus, it understands that. And at the same time, your intention and the awareness of your wobble still keeps you on the highway of your dreams. So, this eclipse, new moon, solar eclipse, is not planting the seeds in the faith of darkness. It's planting the seeds in the faith of intention that I am source energy. And as I align my thoughts to the possibilities of what could potentially be, then rather than what the obstacles are to getting where I want to be, I think we're going to see the planets starting to really support the higher vibrations. One of the things I noticed about myself during this last couple months is I suddenly started to default to the fear of the vibration of the lower vibration of the planets. This last week, Lucky we had a heat wave, and Lucky, he's got Neptune and Saturn on his sun. He's a 29-degree Pisces sun, and I thought he was going to die on me. The breathing, he was like, rah, 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 and he was restless, and the whole week was awful. And yet then he started to have a comeback, and I realized part of it was his Pisces was picking up my energy. And then there was some other things going on that I think I used some diatomaceous earth on him, and I think it might have affected him. I didn't let it air out enough before I brought him in the house. But my point is this. As we walk into this season, this Shapley cluster season, where the personal planets are going through Libra, Scorpio, and Sagittarius, we are going to be able to use our intention and our awareness to manifest beyond what appears to be possible to the outside world. And I'm not saying that this is not, again, there's this feeling of walking in cement sandals along the beach, and what used to be comfortable is no longer comfortable. So be mindful of that, because you may, in this period of time, find that in getting back, quote unquote, on track, it may be a new lane on the same highway, or you may veer off onto a new highway altogether. So this is great. I looked at Small Wildflowers and I saw J-Dog say, "My prayers have been heard." And I said, this is great, because I was responding to him. All right, let's talk about the actual transits this week. One of the big ones, I think, is Venus is today at 24 degrees of Leo. She is headed towards the fixed star Regulus, which is at 29 degrees of Leo. She is in a exact sextile today with Mars at 24 degrees of Libra on Spica. So now this is really paying attention to my heart, to my Venusian desires, to what I want in the way of expressing my voice, Venus, my skills, Venus, my self-worth, Venus, my relationships with women, with partnerships in professional dynamics. Venus ruling both Taurus and Libra, it's really this coming together in balance with where I've been and then launching into a new space. Because again, we're talking about our eclipse coming up, new moon solar eclipse coming up on a manifesting point. So, and that's the supergalactic center. So this is powerful. And Venus is just about to enter her fall in Virgo. And this is where she's not feeling, her sexiest. It's where she gets super in her head and practical about things, but from a human perspective. So using this week up until the 19th is when she's going to move into Virgo, you have a real opportunity to speak to spirit with the courage of your heart in leadership for your path. Okay, Leo. and click in that energy, and then be brave to take the action, not physical action, but the action of trusting that spirit will bring forth some kind of inspiration or sign that will lead you into a physical action. We also have interest this week. Mercury and the Sun today are conjunct, and they have been conjunct for the last week or so, trading places with Mercury being first behind the Sun and now in front of the Sun. I think that this is important because there's an opportunity in this conjunction to be aware of our ego and how the ego feeds the mind. And is my ego edging God out, or is it inviting in exciting God opportunities? When Mercury enters Libra on the 18th, that's the day right before Venus enters Virgo. Mercury in Libra is all about sweet talk and about thinking about balance. And the tendency here is to think about it from being a cooperative in the human structure. As Mercury transits over the supergalactic center, which is, being triggered during this eclipse coming up, how can my thoughts serve balance for myself and my evolution and my awareness and my intention, and yet at the same time maintaining the relationships that I value within the human structure? Because it is huge. Now, we have tomorrow, Neptune will be on the world axis. It's going, 0 degrees, 59 minutes of Aries. And this is so incredibly powerful. I mentioned this last week, but I'm going to say it again. Neptune and Saturn the last time they were together in Aries was it was 1470 years ago, in the year 555 AD. And I thought that number was kind of magnificent, just like it hit me like a gangbusters, because 5 in numerology is about freedom. And in Christopher Witecki's step system, the 5 is all about Mercury. And he thinks that the real devil number is 555, not 666. So I thought that was very interesting, because here we're looking at Saturn hovering the world axis and Neptune directly on it now, where it will not happen again for 165 years, I think it takes to go around the Zodiac. So this is a real opportunity to manifest through your connections to spirit. Now I'm going to veer off just a little bit, which might drive people a little bit crazy who's watching in playback. Last night I took my Ring camera off the front door and I brought it into my house. And I put it in my bedroom while I was watching television for about an hour, and the room was completely quiet. And then I went to bed and I said my prayers and I listened to some Native American calming music, and my room started to fill up with orbs. And I have a bunch of orbs in my room throughout the night. Then I woke up because I'm like doing a weird experiment, and I put the Ring camera in the living room where I am not. And there were a few orbs that showed up around 6 o'clock in the morning. But I went out, I literally bought a baby monitor because I want to do some experiments with talking to spirit and seeing the activity in my house. Because the veil is very thin right now. And this is what I'm trying to say, is that Neptune retrograding over the world axis, hitting it for the second time, is giving us an opportunity to rebirth ourselves, not away from the physical experience, but rather embracing that physical experience through the soul's perspective, knowing that I am the creator, that this is the illusion. This is the illusion, okay? And that is so powerful. And that we're going to experience until I think November is when Neptune, maybe it's October. I'd have to check my dates, but before Neptune retrogrades back at 29 degrees of Pisces, which is very significant in and of itself. Okay, so let's move on. Also this week, on the 16th, Mars is at 26 degrees of Libra. Now remember, Mars is in fall, while Mars is in Libra. So Mars is really fighting for justice. This is where you see in a natal chart, potentially policemen, lawyers, people who have Mars in Libra don't necessarily have an inability to take action. It's just about taking action, considering everything and how it fosters balance and harmony. Now, here this week, Mars is in direct opposition to Chiron, okay, at 26 degrees of Aries, which is an interesting dynamic when you think about Saturn and Neptune at the very beginning of the zodiac, especially Neptune at 0 degrees of Aries, and Chiron, the wound that is also the gift when it is when there's an awareness of the reason the wound exists. Okay, and the reason is usually something that either inspires, compels, or traumatizes us into action. So I think that this is an interesting thing to pay attention to, because with Mars representing frustration and anger and almost like Mars is kind of funny, because Mars will blow up and throw, like these anger balls at people and then give up. That's the shadow side of Mars. And here, I think this is about the opposition is really representing the braveness and the tenacity to get through the wound and to see the wisdom that's extracted from it. This is why when Christopher Witecki, when I was listening to him recently, it was probably a month ago or so, he said that he thinks the Earth rules Taurus, and that made perfect sense to me, and that Chiron rules Virgo, which also made sense to me. So if we think about Chiron actually ruling Virgo, then we're getting that Virgonian practicality, earthly process and analyzation. And that's where the big fight could be, because what we would normally analyze and would be acceptable is no longer acceptable. Let me be very clear. Thinking small about yourself is no longer acceptable. Thinking that you're not a co-creator of your life and not able to live out your dreams is being small about yourself. This is part of why that axis of Virgo and Pisces is so challenging, because when we give up so much of our power to, what will happen to us versus what we're co-creating, it can feel very debilitating. I don't watch Christopher all the time. I used to watch him a long time ago, and it became kind of voluminous, where there was so much material every day that I thought I got distracted by what he was producing. But I really took to the step system 1 through 12. I didn't explore much beyond that, because I think that gives us deeper levels of intention within our chart. And when I look at just my 26 degrees Aries rising, it's like what I feel and what I will receive. Because Aries, when it's angry, doesn't receive. Well, that's a great thing about being human, and also about our guides, because if something doesn't resonate with you, they won't even use it. They'll let something else, they will use to get their point across what will resonate with you. So it's all about like kind of taking little threads of things and then building your own rope or your own ladder to your connection with spirit. It's never about following one person myopically. At least that's the way it's been shown to me. All right. So also we have on the 16th, the moon will be conjunct Jupiter. Now, I think this is super an interesting day, because the moon rules Cancer and Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. And depending upon what's going on in your life, this could really bring forth an expanded emotional day. It could be, emotional in a good way where you're super celebrating. It can also, I like to do that so much. I never agree with one person's theory all the way through. I always find a stop somewhere. But I want to offer on the 16th, this, while this could be a day, most people say, expanded emotions, we immediately think of, oh my God, I'm going to be crying. It could be very happy and fun, but it could also be where you're super intuitive. like on the 16th, having the moon traversing over Jupiter, Jupiter being the connection to the angelic realm, the moon being your intuitive body. This could be a day that you really feel a sense of support from things you cannot see. So be mindful of that, and maybe even plug in on that day and say, hey, knock, knock, who's there? That was the other thing. I've been kind of feeling like, having my little weird, not doubts. I can never say I doubt spirit, but, I'm like, hey, can you show up? Like with Mike and having him pass away. Tomorrow's 3 months since he's been gone technically, but today's the day he died 3 months ago. And, because I have an emotional attachment to him in the physical, I don't get to have the same connection. It's like my ego gets caught up. And that's, I think, another thing what propelled me to want to look and see if there were orbs in my room at night. Hey, Lucy Rose, welcome in the room. I didn't even say hi to to Z. I'm just going to say it that way. J-Dog, did I say hi to you? I hope I did. Anyway, so play around with that on that day. Play around with your connection with spirit. Play around, talk to them. Ask them to give you signs, omens, and inspirations. On the 17th, we have a little bit of a day where it's a little bit of a challenge because we have Mercury retrograding at 28 degrees of, and we're closing in on the, we're closing in on that, the eclipse, right? So as Mercury is getting to the anaretic degrees or the anaretic degree, it's at 28 now, but about to be 29, but it's opposing Saturn retrograde in Pisces. So here we're really going to be thinking it could very well be where your mind wants to expand to bigger thoughts or possibilities, and where old rules and old structures or elders in your life, people who have authority over you, government, banking, people like that, there could be a push-pull. And there could be also like a call to action that doesn't feel authentic to you. Like whatever Saturn is representing in the way of some sort of limitation, it's like somebody's trying to push you into the rule, into the obligation, into whatever that is. Let the pause be there, don't jump into action necessarily, because Mercury is going to enter Libra and start to be conjunct the supergalactic center. And now it's making an opposition to Neptune on the world axis. And I think this is so important because Mercury on the supergalactic center is going to fight with the ability to create on its own. It's going to say, look, I watched the news. I was educated. This really isn't possible. If you want to manifest a big following, you've got to market and you've got to do this and you've got to do that. And it's probably all well and true, right? But the bottom line is, if you're not emotionally attached to that expansion, if there's a draggy foot, if there's an unsureness, then your action could potentially create frustration. So now you connect with spirit, Neptune, and you go, look, if this is going to bring me joy, happiness, and fulfillment, then I want to endeavor this, because we don't want to remove Mercury's energy. We want to manage it. We want to be the cowboy on the horse that is Mercury and steer it with our own reins versus it running amok. Now we go into the 19th, and we are 2 days before our eclipse, and we're seeing a transit yod. Now, for us on the Earth, it's transit, but for the children that are being born, it's going to be in their birth chart. I recently did a chart for a childhood friend's son. He had my childhood friend had a grandson, and this kid is his chart is off the charts. He was born on the day that the sun went from Leo to Virgo, but he was still born on the Leo side. So his sun is on Regulus, and it's the focal point of what we would call a transit yod between Pluto and I think it's Neptune. Yeah. And probably then Saturn as well. But it's so crazy because this particular yod has Mars, which is a personal planet, action, anger, frustration. Venus, your self-worth at 0 degrees. Okay, so we're coming into that 0 degree, that new energy of Venus looking at her self-worth from a more well-rounded perspective. all focusing in on Neptune specifically because Neptune's at 0 degrees, but Mars and Saturn are exact at 28 degrees. So this yod, the quincunxes are between Mars, action, anger, frustration, bravery, courage, Venus, self-worth, my voice, my money, my talents, all coming in to a point where Neptune and Saturn are sitting. Will you reach for the higher vibrations of those planets, or will you fall prey to the erosive? You know, every time somebody mentions Neptune, they talk about the dissolver, but it could be the dissolver of things that don't work for you and the beginning of things that do work for you. So this is so incredibly, the times right now are not like necessarily, I mean, they're transformational, but they are transformational for the mind. Mostly how we process, how we manifest, how we create and co-create, and that awareness. And again, I absolutely think this is preparing us for galactic entry, for meeting those that are very different than us, and learning how to be expansive within an energy when we start to feel small, because humans are small in comparison to other living life forms. One other thing I think I'll bring up, and I look at my other notes, is Venus, as she enters Virgo on the 19th, will be in a quincunx to Pluto in Aquarius. And this could be where there's a little feeling of, you know, how will I get there? Where will it come from? Is it even possible? Blah, blah, blah. And Pluto's going to say, you're going to have to trust your power and your ability to create. The thing about Pluto is that we talk about power and control a lot, but we forget that Pluto rules the house of Scorpio, which rules the occult. All right, let's get to our signs. It feels so nice to have a normal Sunday morning with small wildflowers here. Lucy's here. All the most of our regulars are here, as 2 people drop out of the room. But it's so nice to see you all here and feel a sense of familiarity, rhythm. All right, let's look and see where we're going with our Virgo babies. Yeah. Whatever normal is. Okay. Let's see what Spirit has to say for you. This is our Virgo rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. And again, guys, I cannot begin to emphasize how important the moon is and how much I really want to kind of go back to the Placidus house system and check it out. Because if your moon is, you know, like my moon is in the first house of Taurus because I have a 26 degree rising. And my second house cusp is at 29 degrees of Taurus. If I looked at that in whole sign, it would absolutely not be correct. It would not be telling the truth of my personal soul's history. So check it out. All right, Virgo. Our first card is the Ace of Swords upside down, the Three of Wands, the Princess of Cups, which is the Page of Cups reversed, and the Hierophant. Okay, this is so perfect for Virgo because here's literally the tarot card of thought, but it's reversed, right? So this isn't about new thoughts. It's about turning thoughts upside down. And what are we talking about? That our thoughts are the beginning of our manifestation. Well, that's not true, because what happens is it's our emotional body which starts the manifestation, then our thoughts chew on the manifestation, and then our speech then confirms the thoughts and so it becomes this domino effect. But now Spirit is saying it's time to look to the future, but with fire, to look at the expansion, to look at the possibilities that you have, because on some level, you're not paying attention to your emotional body, Virgo. You're not paying attention to the messages that Spirit is trying to bring to you through your emotional body. Because here, the Hierophant, while it represents the sign of Taurus very much, and it also represents Venus, I always see it as has a Jupiterian flair, we see what appears to be a religious character here, and this crown of stars above his head that warms him as he goes through the labyrinth of life. The bull and the bear really kind of showing protection and bounty. And then we see these cold mountains in the background. So what this is saying for Virgo rising this week is your thoughts will not serve you. To look to the future, it's about connecting to your emotional body, but not through what you've learned through your mind, through your information, through whatever you've been taught, even, I could say. Because when we look at this, I was just looking at the card a little bit because he's touching, and I'm trying to see what the symbol is, because the symbols on the runes are very interesting. It almost feels like a heart. So if you look carefully at this, you see he touches the top of the labyrinth and then it strikes a star. See where it all kind of connects. So here, this is an opportunity for you to look at your thoughts and see if they're serving where you want to go, which is here. Is your emotional body connected to that? Don't fight if it's not. If it isn't, remember, you're a child of Source. Be gentle with yourself. Okay, let's move on to our Libras, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. I was also thinking that the last few years that we've been watching the outer planets, have their entering the later degrees of the houses they've been in. Pluto, late degrees of Capricorn, Neptune, late degrees of Pisces, Uranus, late degrees of Taurus. And now we're seeing that this big shift is coming. And at the same time, the nodes started off like a few years ago, we were in Sagittarius. And then a year and a half later, we were in, this is all like about 2020, right? The nodes were in Sagittarius, then the nodes were in Scorpio, then they were in Libra, all going over that Shapley cluster period, right? Now we're coming into the Virgo energy of applying what we've learned, both emotionally, spiritually, physically. That's where that's where the transcendence comes in. It's not really transformation, because much of the earth will look potentially the same. The characteristics will be the same. The ego will always be here. There'll always be a bit of light and dark on this planet and contrast, but how will you perceive it and see it? Okay, here we go. This is for Libra, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. We have the Four of Pentacles reversed. You're coming out of some stuck period. Princess of Cups is now, the Page of Cups is now straight up. So this is nice. We have the Hierophant again. Love it. And then the Seven of Wands. All right, you're coming into some kind of clarity, and it could be as a result of this last week's eclipse. Again, eclipses have a 6-month influence. And if you look back 6 months ago, we were on the Aries Libra axis, and we just had started the eclipses in March. I think we had our last Aries eclipse and then the first Virgo eclipse. This very much, there could be something that's coming into culmination for you, because the Four of Pentacles is very much a card of feeling stuck. In this particular deck, though, we see this swan is transformed. The sun, which represents the ego, is encased. So now it's time to allow whatever you have transformed from the ugly duckling into the swan to facilitate the exciting God opportunities that lie ahead. And it's time to follow your heart, to follow the things that bring you a sense of harmony and peace. And here is Spirit supporting you, this is the thing. The support doesn't come just because you deserve it unabashedly, okay? But the support comes more as you intentionally move towards what you love, then the support becomes more obvious. Almost feels as if you can see the finger of God on the hand of the star that you want to be or that you want to create for yourself. And there is no need to defend your position And if for some reason the Mars Chiron opposition hits you, okay, because again, this is Libra rising. Mars is currently in Libra and making an opposition to Chiron in Aries, which is your 7th house. If for some reason the people in your lives, the partnerships, the others on some level in your life have unsureness about this, you get to sort of just sit back and stand firm in what you believe about yourself. Okay, no need to roar. All right, let's move on to Scorpio, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. We'll get our momentum back pretty soon, but I thank all of you who are regulars, who come religiously and faithfully and are such loyal, loving members of our tribe every week, supporting each other. I think this is so important during these times. And when I was having my wobble, Spirit said one of the things that that made me feel more wobbly was not having my routine when it came to the transits. And I said to Spirit, the transits are scaring me right now. Lucky has a 29-degree sun, I don't want him to pass away. And Spirit said to me, the soul chooses when it leaves, not the transits. And I had to pony up and remember what I know about life and about the universe and about the soul. All right, you ready, Scorpio? Here we go. We have the Strength card. We have the 10 of Pentacles. We have the Lovers. And then we have the 8 of Cups. Well, this is very interesting because when I first looked at it, the Strength card is about fortitude. It's a journey of tenacity in trusting your heart and having the courage to trust your heart. It's very Leo. And here we see the Kundalini energy. We see the infinity sign over her torso, which is really the heart chakra, the sacral chakra, and the solar plex chakra. We see that the moon just touches the top of her head, but it's a crescent moon. Here, the cup is not full yet, but she's learned somehow to tame that Kundalini energy and to trust, the power of her intention and the gentility that she's being offered as she trusts that. Because somewhere there's a choice being made about what you want that'll really bring you true happiness. The 10 of Pentacles is a card of tradition, of it can represent large organizations, but it also represents family and home and hearth and the lineage that we have. In some level, while it doesn't traditionally represent Taurus, it has a little bit of a Taurian feel to me. The Lovers card very much is a card of choice. It's a choice. And here I think Spirit is saying for my Scorpios to choose that which will bring you the ultimate happiness, will engage not only financial security, but connectedness, a sense of lineage, or a sense of, how do I want to say it? Because it's not about control or power, but there is a legacy aspect to this, to what this feels like. Because there's a walking away from things that don't serve what it is that truly is where you want to go. Now, I want to offer this for my Scorpios because I've said this quite a few times. I do believe Scorpio is the most intuitive sign of the zodiac, mostly because they're suspicious. I say that lovingly, but because they have little trust issues, it makes them more intuitive. The Pisces is like believes anything that the addict tells them because they feel sorry for them. This is the lower vibrations. And then, of course, the Cancer energy is like, well, let me love you through it, right? Scorpio's not like that. So here, I think what that Strength card is saying is that you're willing now to walk away from anything that doesn't align to what you truly want, that isn't going to bring you the bounty and the legacy that you want to leave behind and the choices that you make. So I think this is a very spiritual card because when we look at it, we see that the dolphin representing joy, we see the dove representing peace, and the character swimming up through their emotional body into the rainbow and the star. So I'm really, and through dark clouds on some level, and maybe even coming out of a cloudy situation. Well, I don't know if we were totally out of the situation just yet. I don't think we're quite out, because the way strength represents a journey of some kind of fortitude, and the Eight of Cups is definitely a journey as well. So I think overall that this eclipse season and what's coming up is Scorpio really starting to have a discernment, and maybe even putting aside the part of you that gets, annoyed and pissed off. Like, I don't even have the time to waste energy being pissed off at somebody anymore. All right, let's go on to our Sagittarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. I just heard a message, and I don't know if it's for a specific sign or for everyone. Stay the course. Consistency will produce results. Whatever you're endeavoring, whether you're, the Pisces and Virgo axis is, again, the axis of suffering, the axis of health, daily habits, the axis of the mind versus the soul's voice. Something about consistency. So I think what Spirit is saying, that whatever you do, whether you're praying, whether you're, using affirmations, it's not about trying to push too hard, but about a little bit every day will produce results. Hey, just call me C. Welcome. We are on Sagittarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. And I'm about to pull the spread. We get some good shuffling in here. All right, we have the Knight of Cups, the Magician, the Nine of Swords, and the Ace of Cups. All righty, so here we are. We've talked a lot about, the intuitiveness of Neptune, right? When I look at the Knight of Cups, it's about being brave. It's about being brave to hold up your cup and to allow it to be full, not just of emotions, but of whatever you want. What do you want to put in this cup? And what are you willing to do to see yourself as a magical unicorn that is protected by your emotional body? And I want to offer it this way, because we saw the Nine of Swords and the angel's advice, and it's literally saying, for my Sagittarius, this is where things get really kind of crazy for me in the Sagittarius energy, because there are two significant points. First is the great attractor. This is probably, literally when you have a personal planet, you can have a generational planet there and it's powerful. But if you have a personal planet there, combining that planet's energy with the great attractor is all about manifestation. So here, this would indicate potentially Mars, okay? Because a knight is a hero. A knight who knows his heart, knows what he wants. And here's the Magician for, focusing your mind. You have all the tools. Worry is blocking you from your manifestation, Sagittarius. It's literally keeping you from seeing the network that's working in your favor, that works beyond. This is what I want you to know too. What's so weird about it is the actual emotion, yes, starts a manifestation, right? But the emotion is what gives the manifestation power. When you worry and you start to get worked up, people start yelling, ah! All that is what starts the manifestation, because Spirit's going back to love. Spirit's going back to your cup overflows. And when you reach for what you want, when you recognize that you have all the tools at your disposal, and then rather than freaking out that it's not going to happen, because this is clearly a freak out card, okay, you start to think, no, any divine disruption that I've experienced through the Piscean full moon lunar eclipse, or what that lunar eclipse may bring up over the next 6 months, is not to turn you away from your dreams, but to hone you into your dreams more succinctly. Now, this is what I want to offer when it comes to dreams. Peace of mind is a big dream. To be able to walk through this planet and just feel a sense of comfort and ease and flow, that the money will be there, the connections will be there, that you're safe and secure, because this world doesn't feel safe and secure anymore. When I was younger, I could go to concerts, I could go to clubs, I could get drunk and walk, on the street late at night, which wasn't smart, but I was a lot safer then than you are now. And so there's a weird feeling of unsureness now. So for my Sagittariuses to plug in and to know that you have the wings to fly wherever you need to go. And then just pray to God when you feel the worry. Thank you for removing this worry and letting me see who I really am, that my cup overflows. Because that great attractor is about attracting what you want. And then at 27 degrees of Sagittarius, you have the ability to download information and solutions to things. Now think about this. If you're a late degree Sagittarius rising, okay, and you're near the, within a degree or two, because that's a tight orb, the galactic center, your whole first house is Capricorn. The ability to build monumental things is within your power. And even if you're an early degree, it doesn't matter. You still have that opportunity and option. All right, speaking of Capricorn, let's move on. Rising moon, sun, and stelliums. I always think when you have a strong Capricorn first house, you're going to live forever. Be a very old person. All right, Capricorn, and one of my favorite signs, I do have to say it. It's so weird. I like all the really tough signs, the ones that give me shit. And the funny part about it is that when they start to give me shit, I'm like, fucking A, pardon my language. Like, damn Scorpio, damn Capricorn, But when they're in their higher vibrations of awareness, even those little hues of challenge are kind of exciting. All right, Capricorn, let's see what's going on. The Knight of Pentacles, that's process. Something's in process. We have the Emperor reverted, inverted, reversed. The Empress, interesting. They're a couple. And the Tower. All right, Capricorn, something is going to happen unexpectedly. And I want to offer it this way because the Knight of Pentacles is a Virgonian. There's something about process, and it's also slow. It's like the Knight of Pentacles is going to go through and check every receipt. Is going to look through every ledger book, and make sure that every T is crossed and every I is dotted. Now, the Emperor inverted, to me, is about not rushing, okay? Because this is Arian, it's Mars, it wants to move forward, move forward, move forward, and you may be frustrated because you think this is taking forever. Whatever you want to manifest, whatever you want to create, because the angels are saying you're still in a gestation process. And you don't want to bring that baby into the world too soon. And I don't mean a literal baby. I mean whatever it is that you want, whether it be birthing your talents, your skills. This could be a new job. It could be work. It could have something to do with that. It could also have something to do with your health, the Virgonian energy again, because something shifts unexpectedly. So it's a hurry up and wait, or a wait, and then all of a sudden everything happens very quickly. Meticulous and the Virgo energy is going to be meticulous and take their time being meticulous. And the Emperor is about not rushing and not getting frustrated because it's inverted. And this Emperor, if he was straight up, would be a little bit more, it's my way or the highway. But because of the way this is playing out in the positions, I think something's gestating. This plays again back to the Virgo energy. The Empress is always seen as pregnant. The baby's not been birthed, but then something happens unexpectedly, which blows the crown off. Let me do a clarification card because it's kind of hard to just walk away from this Capricorn energy without seeing what might be revealed unexpectedly. Oh, this is interesting. Has something to do with teamwork and a job. Everything here has to do with work. Maybe you're wanting a new job. Maybe you're wanting to move, expand your work. You've been in some sort of process, but it absolutely is going to work out. And again, look, we see eggs here. See the eggs in the nest? So there's another period of gestation going on here. Okay. Well, I have to agree with your work computer. I don't like you at work today on a Sunday. It's God's day of rest. And if you hear my voice ever on the other side, when you get there, Teri told you, relax. Teri, you know how I love to be right. There's a very good possibility. We're all going to die someday. And we're all going to see each other in our life review because we've been hanging out together for the last 6 years. Gosh. All right, here we go. This is, we're going on to our Aquarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Oh, I get it. The OT. Yeah. I've had the most amazing, weird, like, it's so weird in my life is I feel like a schizo lately because I literally feel like, I don't know if you guys remember Mother Teresa. Do you remember her? Because she was always very famous for being this great Catholic nun and having such, devotion to God. And yet she wavered in her faith. She never had any visions. She never was talked to by God. It was just all faith-based. And lately I've been feeling like that. My God-given name is Teresa. And I've been like, are you there, spirit? Knock, knock. I can't feel you. I can't hear you. I need, to work more so I can get at the table. And that's what made me start to look for the orbs. Like, is anyone there? I'm so glad that you like your doctors. That's so important. That is like a key to the manifestation of the better health. All right, here we go. We're going on to our Aquarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. 3 of Pentacles. The Wheel of Fortune reversed. The Empress. And the 3 of Swords. Well, this is a little bit rough. I'm not going to lie. You all right there, bub? 3 of Pentacles is a teamwork card. It's Mars in Capricorn. It is where there's something's happening this week, and it could be that the eclipse is going to reveal something for you. Pluto is in Aquarius, right? So Pluto is unearthing where there's toxic energy. The Wheel of Fortune is not moving right now. It's upside down. And then we see the Empress again in this gestational period. And then we see this 3 of Swords. This is not easy. This feels as if somewhere on a team, in a team place, your value is not being seen, or you're not displaying your value in some way. You're letting yourself be absorbed by the team. Let me do a clarification on that 3 of Swords, because the 3 of Swords is often a betrayal, but I wonder, there's a little something here that makes me wonder if Aquarius has that sense of exile, that sense of being alone, that little bit of sense of people don't think like me. And I wonder if maybe something's going on with that. Let's look. The 4 of Cups is upside down. This is actually good because Spirit's trying to hand you a gift of some kind. And when the 4 of Cups is upside down, we're only seeing the problem, okay? And when it's right side up. When it is upside down, it gives us an opportunity to look at things from a different perspective. So I want to offer it this way. If there is some kind of betrayal, or somebody backstabs, or somebody talks crap about you or other people, it could be somebody else. It might not even have anything to do with you. Stay out of it. Stay out of it, because it may end up working better for you than you think. And if they are talking crap about you, then be mindful of your reaction. Try not to react, try to take intentional action about it, because it could actually work out in your favor somehow, because it could change your perspective. What could end up happening is whatever this situation is could make you walk away from something that isn't working. I need to pull one more card. I'm sorry. It just feels incomplete. Yep. 2 of Pentacles. So if for some reason you're not getting the money you deserve at work, and you feel backstabbed because you've worked your ass off and somebody cries poor, which almost every employer I ever had always cried poor. And I never worked for an institution that had this sort of built-in pay raises. So yeah, something might be going on with work, with money. You feel betrayed because you've been working hard, and it may have you start looking what you want to do next. You may not jump out of your job, but it may be the beginning of a new situation or new contemplation. And when I say new contemplation, it's like, I've been in this job. This guy's been telling me that he's going to, give me that promotion for a year now, and nothing's been happening. Maybe he's not really going to give it to me. I don't know what the scenario is. You'll know what it is, but all right, here we go. Hi, Bubbies. Can I show you my gorgeous little Bubbies real quick, because he lived through the week? Look at the Luxtas. Say hi to the peoples. Lucky. See, that's an old dog for you. He can't be bothered. All right, on to our Pisces. Sorry, just had to show you the Luxta. The rest part, I want to say this. Small, when I think of rest, I really don't necessarily think of you having to lay on a bed sleeping. Rest is doing something fun, laughing, doing, go axe throwing. I'm pretty sure if you can work, you could throw a 1.5 pound axe. Go line dancing if you like it. Go to the movies. Go sit outside. I don't know. Just don't do anything that's work related. I think there's something about, for you particularly, Small, that if you surrender to that idea, I know you like to keep busy. Do a crossword puzzle, get a puzzle, whatever, to keep yourself busy, but to relax, to claim your space, to claim your peace. I think that everything else will start to go in rebalancing itself. All right, Pisces, here we go. The Nine of Pentacles reversed. The King of Swords. The Hermit reversed. And the Magician. All right. So this is the thing. Here's Pisces. Yes, whatever it is. Yeah, you don't have to sleep all day. You just have to have fun, or feel at peace, feel in gratitude. Okay. Pisces. This is a card where normally when it's upright, it's about independence. It's about having claimed. It's about making your way in the world. Now here we're looking at a lack of independence, or a lack of creating for myself. And, sometimes when we look at that Pisces energy, I mean, it's kind of a slippery slope, honestly, because depending upon what you have in other places, you could be very independent and you could not fall prey to the lower dynamics of Pisces. But here, Spirit is encouraging you to be aware of where your vibration is, because here is the Truth card, and here is the Aquarian energy. Here is looking to the future, and the Hermit is upside down. So somewhere it could be about work, but it could also be about enlightenment, about your own personal skills and talents that you're not paying enough attention to. You're not seeing yourself as independent or as capable. And this is like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? Spirit saying it's time to take time to reflect, because you do have all the things necessary in order to create what it is you want to manifest. Remember, the Magician is really the most, as the Fool enters the major arcana, the first energy that he meets is the kind of the key to the kingdom. You have all the tools here. Now, how will you manage them through all the aspects of the human dynamic? Because we go from the Magician to the High Priestess. So we go from all the tools and the intuition into the Empress and the Emperor, and then on and on. So here, this is really about you this week coming into some sort of awareness that, hey, what I want for myself is possible. And maybe I need to be just a wee bit Aquarian and push people who are not supporting me aside. Maybe that's where you're not seeing the enlightenment. This Virgo card, yes, it's the Hermit is Virgo, it's work, but with this owl that stares straight into the lens as it looks at you, and of the camera, and the Hermit holding this lantern, it's an aha moment in the midst of darkness. What do you mean? Oh, yes, I do. So what if you're an artist? What if you're a musician? What if you're a sculptor, a painter? What if you're creative with anything? If you look at wherever Pisces is in your chart, let's say it's in the third house. If Pisces is your third house, then you're creative with words, and you're creative with, information potentially, or journalism. I mean, there's so many, you got to look at the layers here, because I really want to encourage you to know that as you speak, you create and you manifest, and it's powerful. All right, Aries, here we go. I'm telling you, if any planets, the early born, late Pisces, early Aries is so incredibly powerful. To have Neptune and Saturn hanging out, and I want to offer this, because you don't need a conjunction. You could have a square, you could have a quincunx, you could have, opposition, you could have a trine. And this is why I think Placidus is so important, because seeing the size of the pie, the house, and how it's affecting it, this is an opportunity to allow Neptune to erode the human structure known as Saturn, that allows the soul to reveal itself and its power, and to create the self in such a more joyous and fulfilling way. It's where you plug into the hero, to the brave one, to the team player who understands the beauty of sportsmanship, right? It's about skill and prowess, not about winning. So let's see what are we going to see this week? No, they're not. And that's why it's important, I think, Lucy, because they're not created equal in Placidus. It gives a glimpse into what the soul wants to focus in on. The larger houses, or the concentration of planets within a house, will very much be like, oh, okay, I've got 3 personal planets in the first house. I guess I'm working on myself and how I've got my moon in the first house, right? And I know that a lot of who I am, I identify emotionally. I'm very passionate about moon things. I'm very passionate about my country. I'm very patriotic. I'm very attached to my family. I'm very loyal. It takes me a while to trust people. I can be very Libra friendly, but to get deep inside of me, you got to go slow, and you can't push. And I smell things with people that they don't know I smell. And, while I love people for who they are, they don't realize that they reveal themselves often in how they show up. And I have to put in healthy boundaries, because what they see in themselves may not be what I see or how they feel to me. All right, here we go. We are on to our, I said Aries, right? Am I on Aries? Yeah, thank you. The world, yes. My Aries rising is very happy to see that. The 5 of Cups, the Strength card, and the Chariot. Okay. There's something that's coming up for Aries that is bringing in the world, the Saturnian energy of the world, but in its reward phase. When the Fool meets the world at the end of the major arcana, he understands the rules, the boundaries, and limitations of the earth plane. What goes up must come down. Day always follows night, night always follows day. We're secular. Because when I look at that 5 of Cups, something appears potentially to be not fulfilling for you. And sometimes with the Aries energy, if you don't win 100%, you're not happy, right? You're like, I want to annihilate that guy. I think he's a bad person. But this is part of the Aries energy, is to be hero enough to see that what is sometimes light is also dark, and what is dark is also light. Because this Strength card is asking you on some level to focus in on what potential rainbows there are. Look how much bigger the 2 cups are than the 3 that have fallen. So I think potentially there could be this feeling of understanding that comes through, like an awareness that the world is just. Because now when I look at the Chariot upside down, which normally represents a victory, I'm not necessarily feeling the victory here as much as I'm feeling that I'm no longer pulling on 2 sides of myself. That as an Aries, I'm willing to say, okay, I'm going to be aware that I'm a creator, that I'm I rule the beginning of the zodiac. So where I don't care if your fifth house is, which would be Sagittarius rising, is Aries. Whatever house Aries is offering you a new beginning in the genre of that house. So if Aries is your sixth house, then you're looking at a new beginning in unslaving yourself or untethering yourself to things in your daily routine that aren't authentic to the hero in you. So here, I feel like there is actually a sense of potentially, I no longer am struggling with feeling loss because I'm understanding that sometimes loss is really a win in disguise. Um, oftentimes people like, I don't know if I'm for the death penalty or not, to be honest, because when I think about somebody being killed or dying, I think, well, that puts them in spirit. And then they get to see everything from that loving perspective and there's no suffering. Maybe it's better to keep them here in prison and have them suffer through the human structure. Because there's something weird about like in this energy of like Aries wanting like, I want the death penalty, but you're not going to get that. You're going to get some other version of justice. And then you get to see how that justice is actually wiser or more sweet than it would appear to be. That's the way it looks at for me. All right, let's go on to our Taurus, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Now, this is the other thing when we talk about Placidus, okay? And on my ever-evolving view of astrology. I think for me, if I'm going to pay attention, I need to look at the Taurus reading because obviously my moon is Taurus and I always talk about looking where your moon is, but Taurus is a large part of my first house, if not almost all of it, because I'm a 26-degree Aries rising. We go right into the Taurus energy and my second house starts at 29 degrees of Taurus. So I'm literally a bull, a fiery bull. All right, here we go. The Eight of Swords reversed, Bull on fire. The Hermit coming out again, a lot of reflection. The Lovers and the Ten of Pentacles. Well, this is lovely. The Eight of Swords is reversed is wonderful. It's you get out of your own way. You're no longer trapped by the things that have haunted you before. In the traditional Rider-Waite deck, you see a female figure. And I think that's important because the female receives, the female creates, the female gestates new life and abundance. And yet in the Eight of Swords, she's caught into this wall of potential fears, right? And then she has this blindfold, but it's like it's loose. Almost feels like if she shook her head and she shook her body, the shackles in those cloth wrappings would just fall away. So here, this is wonderful because this is like, wow, I'm no longer feel that way. I'm actually more connected to what the eagle has been offering me when I was feeling tethered to my. This is where you're getting your own way. Your own inner thoughts start to mess with you. Now here's the Hermit. The Hermit, Virgonian thought again, but it's also an opportunity for enlightenment. Somewhere Taurus has had an epiphany, an aha moment. And here it is. That aha moment feels this is the Gemini energy, right? Again, we're looking at thoughts. We're looking at traditionally in astrology, Virgo is ruled by Mercury, Gemini is ruled by Mercury. Somewhere you're coming together. You're no longer feeling that sense of churning within. I also feel like this is also illuminating a choice to step into a higher vibration of like, I'm not going to lower myself into that situation anymore. Where in the past, maybe Taurus was going to put their hooves in the ground and be stubborn and say no. Now you're thinking more about your own happiness and about how to stabilize it and continue it and to grow it more and more and more. Exactly. This girl's on fire. That's very Taurus right now, I think. It feels like maybe it even has something to do with as Uranus was going through your first house and now it's in your second house and it's popping things, you're like, I'm claiming my space. I'm not doing this anymore. And I'm not doing this anymore. Meaning I'm not doing the fake happiness anymore. I'm not saying yes to things I don't want to do. I'm not doing anything I don't want to do anymore. And to quote the wisdom of a 3-year-old, tough titties, I'm not doing that. All right, let's go on to our Geminis, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Welcome everybody to the room. Thank you so much for being here. We've been gone for a while. Small wildflowers, I finally feel like we're back on track a little bit. Well, I'll tell you something, I think that this being diagnosed with this situation is about claiming your space, exactly, and tell everybody to do exactly what, exactly. Start feeling good about it. Meaning, not that you want to be mean, but it's like, look, I got to live in this brain. I got to live in this heart. If I don't do what this brain and this heart wants, none of y'all are going to be happy around me. All right, Gemini, here we go. The 9 of Pentacles, the Fool, the 7 of Pentacles, and the 2 of Pentacles. The 9 of Pentacles is very much an independent. It's very entrepreneurial. It's this character, while it's depicted as a female, has everything that she needs. She has the talent, she has the skills, she has the confidence to do what it takes. And I also think she's got the healthy boundaries. Okay, because here this black cat feels like I've got healthy boundaries, and it's got tiger stripes on it, that's what's really kind of coming across to me is I know how to keep the things that are important close to me, and I know how to keep the things that are maybe the outer rings of importance to me where they need to be, because there's a new journey coming, and it's a new journey based on something you've already been creating that you no longer want to create. That 7 of Pentacles is all about building something, about something that's been coming over time. So with it being reversed, it's something completely new, and it has something to do with the new flow of money. Hey, Les, welcome to the room. Good to see you here. We've been gone for a while, but we're back now. This 2 of Pentacles is interesting because it's a card of flexibility. We often think of it as money and flow, but I think here what we're looking at for our Geminis is to recognize that you have a lot of talents and you actually have the ability to sort of be able to see both sides of a situation, sometimes to your own annoyance, right? Because you go back and forth, the twins. But here now it's about sort of bringing that together into one intention. And I think what the Fool is also talking about here is, because there's 3 pentacles here, this feels very much like it has something to do with creating money or creating something in the material world that you want, not just something emotional. So you may start contemplating, and there may be things where you're doing a side hustle, or you're, I don't know what it could be. I feel like it's about being flexible somehow, because there may be a journey of discovery. Maybe part of it is I recognize my talents, but I'm not sure what I want to build just yet. That could be what this is. I'm not sure what I want to build just yet. So I've got to be a little bit flexible. Remember the guy in the traditional Rider-Waite deck, he's got a red cap on, and he's like, he's 1 foot juggling the pentacles. So there may be, because when I think of it that way, there may be a little bit of like, where do I want to put my talents? I just don't know yet. Okay, let's move on to our Cancers. Thank God for that, small wildflowers. Honestly, it's something I've never had trouble with, really. I mean, maybe I'm not the best at taking care of myself, but I am the best at taking care of myself. Because whatever it is, that's an Aries rising, and then the bull in me. I just don't even know how not to be me. Like, I don't know how to be foggy. I don't know how to sit in, like, I always tell people I'm not a nice person because nice people tell you what you want to hear. They don't tell you their truth. I'm a kind person. I'll tell you my truth. And believe me, it's got me into a lot of problems. I'm not, I'm not advocating it for everybody, but I cannot be a schmoozer. I don't have the schmooze in me. All right. We're going on to Cancer rising. Thank you, Katarina. Cancer, rising moon, sun, and stallions. Katarina is usually the first one in the room, honestly, almost every week. I know I'm going to have a good week when I see her. Okay, here we go. All right, we're talking Cancer. Queen of Cups is upside down. That's you, honey. The World, love it. The Ace of Pentacles and the Ace of Swords. The Queen of Cups upside down is where you're not feeling it. You're not feeling the love, you're not feeling the mastery of your emotional body or even your intuitive body. And I definitely think that could be part of the, Cancer squares Aries, right? So you could be feeling just the house structure alone could be feeling off, a little bit because of the Neptune and Saturn retrograde. But I also think it has mostly to do with your intuitive body not feeling connected, because the World and the Ace of Pentacles is offering you some kind of reward coming in the material world. But part of it will be is focusing your mind or allowing new ideas to come into your mind that haven't come in before. I spoke earlier in the transits. We're going to see the moon and Jupiter come into a conjunction this week. And both planets are in Cancer, moon ruling Cancer and Jupiter exalted in Cancer. I really think that this could potentially be an emotional week where fears might come up, or oh my God, Queen Leo, I cannot tell you how sad I am for you about that and how much I thought about you this last week as Lucky was like, I literally thought Lucky was going to die. He was breathing like he was about to have a heart attack. He pooped an orange poop. And then I had to remember that he wouldn't eat anything of his normal food. He only wanted treats. I don't know. And then as the week progressed, he got better and better. And, he's aging. Well, he's got Neptune and Saturn sitting on his sun. He's almost 14 years old. He's 13 and a half. So I understand, but at the same time, and I don't want to negate your pain, I also know that your dog may come back in a form of another dog as soon as you feel balance. But this is where I'm going. For my Cancers, this week could be two things. There could be a heightened sense of intuition that then turns around and it was carrots. It wasn't his pancreas. It was carrots. I gave him a bunch of carrots. It happens every time. He pooped brown yesterday. He's fine. He really is fine. I think I put some diatomaceous earth on him, and I don't think I let it air out enough. And then he came in the house because I did it on the patio, and then he laid and I think he ended up laying in his own dust, and that's why he had the breathing issue. So next time what I'll do is I'll put it on him and then take him for a good long walk and let it air out. Anyway, sorry for all you Cancers for me interrupting your reading. Let me encapsulate. This week, your emotions may feel upside down. You may feel disconnected. You may not feel like you're in your mojo, but part of that is because you may be inadvertently focusing in on worry or something that you feel a bit of mistrust about. Will it happen? Won't it happen? Will I be okay? Won't I be okay? The world is offering you a reward, but part of it is in Saturn's time. So trusting that. It's also the Ace of Pentacles, and the angel's advice is telling you it's coming into the physical world. So you keeping your mind focused in on, it's okay for me to worry, just keep defaulting back. Thank you, God, for pulling me back into alignment to my deeper truth. Because I do think for some reason that Moon Jupiter conjunction can be, I think it might be a little bit emotional in a way that feels like it brings back home, hearth, and the beliefs, and also it's also about remembering to connect to spirit. Okay, onto our Leos. Well, I think part of it, what happened was I put it on his back legs, the top of his back legs, and his rump and his back. And I think I tried to stay away from things he could lick, but inadvertently, I think he could lick his leg, and that might be where. So next time I'll put a cone on him. I wanted to put a sock over his nose when I did it, but he wasn't having it. He's at an age, I'm sure my dog has an Aquarius moon, because even though he's a Pisces sun, he's got a cold heart. I mean, he does and he doesn't. Like he's very independent on some level. When he wants to be around you, he wants to be around. He's cat-like in a way. He's not like, I used to say to him all the time, you just don't seem like a Pisces to me. And when you think about how the planets work, his Mercury is 2 planets away on either side. If he's a Pisces, that puts him into, Mercury could either be in Aquarius or in Capricorn. And then I know his Venus and his Jupiter are in Taurus. So he's all about the food. All right, here we go. Oh, I got food grade. Don't worry. I got food grade, but it's still, it's still dry. All right, here we go. I can't tell you how many times I do things to this dog and he lives through them. All right. Leo, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. The High Priestess is reversed. The Princess of Cups. The Four of Pentacles reversed. And the Fool. Well, for my Leos, this is very, very clear to me. Your intuitiveness is, you're off somewhere. This week, you're going to have to pay attention to whether you're operating more on the sun side of you. And I want to say this lovingly, your ego being invested, or whether or not you're trusting your intuitiveness or your inner knowing. The Princess of Cups is the Page of Cups. And I think that that's really playing to the heart part of you. The biggest challenge for the Leo energy is to stand in the heart and have the courage of it. And as you stand in that, you become unstuck. Okay. This is very powerful because this could be a 2-year process. When I look at this deck, there's not only this weird like window, right, of feeling stuck. It's an illusion of being stuck. When the card is straight up, the moon is at the top of this structure that appears in it's, you can't penetrate it. But at the same time, when I look at this card, I see that sits in front of the swan. And more than likely, the swan is stuck in an illusion of some kind. And the Fool is offering a new adventure. So this is what I want to offer for my Leos. This particular week, again, if you're an early born Leo, you've got Pluto opposition. You've got Pluto retrograding. Pluto is stationing at 1 degree. This is very powerful because that 1 degree is again, coming from the heart, coming from what you love, what's important to you. And here, this might be, a willingness to look at what has been and seeing what has been. And if that worked, great, take it with you. But if it hasn't, maybe it's time. I don't think you're getting another dog. I think your dog's coming back, Queen Leo. But I'll address you in just a minute, because the Fool here is about the willingness to go on a new adventure, the willingness to understand that your power lies mostly in your ability to connect with your emotional body. And that emotional body there's a discernment there, because oftentimes the ego will appear to be your emotional body. And then as you dig a little deeper, you'll recognize that the ego is the part of you that's sort of inflamed and can stand in fear and stand in, I'll never love like that again. I'll never feel that again. I'll never have that connection again. Or whatever it is that you want to manifest. So if you feel a little bit off, be gentle with yourself. Spirit is saying that the key to getting out of feeling stuck is to recognize your transformation, to recognize that you've been in a process for at least 2 years of preparing for Pluto to come into, because you have to remember that Pluto was, for a Leo, Pluto was in your 6th house of enslavement. Okay. Pluto was somewhere sitting there. Where's that structure? Where is that, the man, the government, the obligation, the duty, and it broke that up. And now there's a new opportunity. Okay. Queen Leo, let me offer you this. I'm not negating the connection that you had with your dog. I think that the beauty of it is that you love that dog so much. I know how you feel, because my cat Emmett, after he passed away, I'm like, I'll never get another cat again, because he was just amazing. And I didn't want a litter box, and I have Lucky, and it's a different situation. But at the same time, as the years have gone by, Emmett's been gone for a long time. I've started to soften with the idea. I don't know if I'm going to get another cat, but, I know that Lucky is a privilege to, on some level, to have loved him, to know him. And I believe that our animals can reincarnate and come back to us. I really do believe that. I know there was a movie with Dennis Quaid about it. I can't remember if it's called A Dog's Life or The Purpose of a Dog. Because I think that your dog potentially, and I know we're on a public broadcast, but potentially there was a grief that has been laying deep within you. And the dog crossing at this time might have been the vessel for the releasing of that emotion. And then as you come back into your true center, the dog can come back to you, and you can revisit the relationship with a new vibration, is the way I want to put it. But you're in my prayers, and I'm sure that your dog is not far from you in any way. They're our companions. They are willing to stay with us over and over again. And let me tell you, my time will be coming. God bless. I have another few years with Lucky. If he lives to be 15 or 16 or 17, 18, I'd be so blessed. But he'll choose his time. And when he does, I'm going to try not to question it. So I hope this helps you. We love you very much. And he loved you. Was it a boy? Was it a girl? I might say he just because I am used to saying he, but it came out as a he. Oh, it was a girl. Oh, sweet girl. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. Small Wildflowers, so great to have you here today. It really started to feel like life's normal again. Not that normal is ever anything that we can count on, because normal is changing. But I will be back next Sunday, and we will be having our new moon Virgo solar eclipse conjunct the supergalactic center, which is very, very powerful. It's also conjunct my North Node, which is an activation. So look in your charts, look at how the potential 29 degrees of Virgo affects your accesses, and see what's going on there. All right, hon. We'll see you all later. We love you, meaning me and all my personalities. And have a wonderful week. Namaste.